My children left me at a care facility on Christmas Eve. I had always cherished the warmth and joy of the holidays, but suddenly, I found myself facing an unexpected reality. Sometimes life takes unexpected turns, revealing strength we didn't know we had. Before I share my full story, let me know where you're watching from and make sure to like the video to support me. I remember it like it was yesterday. Christmas Eve, a time I always loved. It was a day of warmth, family, and joy. But this year, it was different. I woke up early, filled with excitement. I put on my favorite holiday dress. It was red with little white snowflakes. I felt festive and ready for the day. My children, Lily and David, had promised to visit. They said we would have a big family dinner. I could almost smell the roast and hear the laughter. Morning came, and they arrived. Lily hugged me first. Her coat was sprinkled with snow, and her cheeks were rosy from the cold. David followed with a smile, holding a small gift bag. Seeing them made my heart swell with joy. We sat in the living room for a while, chatting about small things. They seemed a bit tense, but I thought it was just the holiday rush. Then, Lily said we should go for a drive. She mentioned a surprise. I assumed it was part of the Christmas fun. We got into their car, and the roads were quiet. The snow was falling softly, covering everything like a white blanket. I was excited, thinking about where we might be headed. Maybe a new restaurant or a visit to an old friend. But the drive was longer than expected. We reached the edge of town, a place I rarely visited. My heart started to beat a little faster. I watched the buildings pass by, trying to guess our destination. Then the car turned into a driveway marked Whispering Pines Care Home. My stomach dropped. I looked at Lily and David, confused. David parked the car, and they both turned to me. They explained their decision. They said they had noticed I was struggling with daily tasks. They thought I would be safer in a care facility. I felt a chill run down my spine. It was Christmas Eve, and here I was, being left at a place I did not want to be. I felt blindsided and betrayed. We walked inside, and everything felt wrong. The halls were decorated with tinsel and lights, but it felt forced and empty. A woman at the desk smiled and handed me some papers. I barely heard her words. My mind was spinning. I thought of past Christmases in my own home, filled with laughter and warmth. Now, I stood in a place that felt cold and unfamiliar. They showed me to my room. It was small and plain, with a bed and a window. The walls were a dull beige. I sat on the bed, feeling the soft mattress sink under me. My heart was heavy. My children had taken control of my finances too, leaving me with little access to my own money. I felt trapped and powerless. My roommate, Agnes, was already there. She was quiet, sitting in a chair by the window, looking out at the snow. She glanced at me and gave a small nod. I wondered what her story was, how she ended up here. She seemed resigned to her fate, while I still felt the sting of betrayal. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The room was silent except for the faint ticking of a clock. I thought about Lily and David. I tried to understand their decision, but it hurt too much. I remembered their laughter as children, their small hands in mine. Now, they had left me here, on a night that should have been about family and love. I felt a mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, and disappointment swirled inside me. But there was also a flicker of determination. I knew I had to find a way out. I could not let this be the end of my story. I had to regain control of my life, somehow. But in that moment, I felt lost and alone. As the night wore on, I thought about the past. I remembered Christmases filled with joy and warmth. I longed for those days, but I knew they were gone. I had to face this new reality, even if it felt impossible. I promised myself that I would find a way to change things. I would not let this betrayal define me. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of soft music playing in the hallway. It was Christmas Day, but it didn't feel like it. I got up slowly, my body feeling heavy with the weight of yesterday's events. I glanced at Agnes, who was still by the window, her face calm but distant. I dressed and walked to the common area. Some residents were gathered there, trying to make the best of the day. The staff had set up a small tree with twinkling lights. There was a table with cookies and hot chocolate. It was a kind attempt to bring cheer, but I felt disconnected from it all. I tried to participate, to smile and chat with the others. But my thoughts were elsewhere. I kept thinking about what to do next. Agnes joined me at a table, her presence comforting in its silence. We shared a few words, but mostly sat together, watching the room. As the day went on, I realized something important. I was not alone. Agnes, and maybe others, understood what it felt like to be left behind. I felt a spark of hope, small but real. I knew I needed to find allies, people who could help me regain my life. In that moment, I decided to start taking small steps. I would learn more about the facility, the rules, and how things worked. I would make connections, find people who might understand and support me. I would not give up. Christmas Day ended, and night came again. I returned to my room, feeling a little more resolved. I still missed my old life, my home, and my family. But I also felt the beginnings of a plan forming in my mind. I knew it would not be easy, but I was determined to try. As I lay in bed, I closed my eyes and imagined a future where I was free and in control. It was a comforting thought, something to hold on to as I drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow would be a new day, a chance to start working toward that future. I was ready to fight for it, one step at a time. Days passed, each one feeling longer than the last. I tried to adjust to life at the facility. The staff were kind enough, and the decorations were cheerful. But to me, everything still felt like a prison. I longed for the comfort of my own home, where I could move freely and make my own choices. Here, every day was the same. Meals at set times, activities planned for us, a strict routine that made me feel trapped. I spent my days exploring the grounds, walking through the small garden they had. The air was crisp and cold, but the snow made everything look clean and bright. On one of these walks, I met Mary. She was a young nurse with a gentle smile and kind eyes. She stopped to chat, asking how I was settling in. I could see she genuinely cared, not just doing her job. We talked for a while. I found myself opening up to her about how I ended up here. She listened patiently, nodding as I spoke. It felt good to have someone to talk to, someone who wasn't judging me or trying to tell me what to do. Mary seemed to understand my feelings of betrayal and loss. One afternoon, Mary approached me with something in her hand. It was an old, unopened letter. She explained that she found it while organizing my belongings. I was surprised and curious. The letter was from my late aunt, someone I had been very close to but lost touch with over the years. I hadn't heard from her in so long, and seeing her handwriting brought back a flood of memories. I opened the letter with trembling hands. Inside, my aunt wrote about how much she missed our time together. She mentioned that she had left me something significant, an inheritance. She had sent the information to my old address, which I never received. My heart raced as I read her words. This news was unexpected and overwhelming. It was like a light had been switched on in a dark room. The inheritance gave me hope. It was more than just money. It was a chance to regain my independence, to take back control of my life. I knew I had to act on this information. I couldn't let this opportunity slip away. I felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. I was not going to spend the rest of my days in this facility. I shared the news with Mary. She was happy for me and understood the importance of this discovery. We talked about what I could do next. Mary suggested I contact a lawyer who could help me access the inheritance and regain control over my finances. She offered to help me discreetly, ensuring that no one else would interfere with my plans. Feeling hopeful, I began to think about my future. I imagined living on my own terms again, free from the constraints of the facility. I wanted to make my own choices, to live a life that felt true to who I was. I was tired of feeling like a burden, like someone who needed to be taken care of. I wanted to prove to myself and everyone else that I was still capable. During this time, I also grew closer to Agnes. She shared her own story with me. Like me, she had been left here by her children, who believed it was for her own good. We bonded over our shared experiences, and her resilience inspired me. Agnes had accepted her situation with grace, but I could see that she longed for more, just like I did. Agnes and I spent our days talking and supporting each other. We laughed, shared stories, and sometimes just sat in comfortable silence. Our friendship became a source of strength for me. Knowing that I wasn't alone in this struggle made it a little more bearable. We both dreamed of a day when we could live freely again. Meanwhile, I learned more about my children's situation. Lily and David were struggling financially, which was part of why they had taken control of my assets. This revelation added complexity to my feelings. While I felt betrayed, I also understood they were dealing with their own challenges. But it didn't change the fact that their decision had hurt me deeply. Despite this, I remained focused on my goal. I couldn't let their problems dictate my life. I had to find a way to move forward, for my own sake. The inheritance was my lifeline, and I was determined to use it wisely. It was a chance to start fresh, to build a new life where I felt valued and independent. As the days went by, I kept my plans quiet, sharing only with Mary and Agnes. I knew it was important to stay under the radar, to work carefully and deliberately. Mary continued to support me, offering advice and encouragement. She was a true ally, someone I could trust completely. I felt the beginnings of change in the air. It was slow, but it was there. I was no longer just waiting for something to happen. I was taking steps, however small, to create the future I wanted. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face it. I was ready to reclaim my life, one step at a time. With the hope of the inheritance in my heart, I felt stronger. I knew I had to act. One morning, I sat with Mary, discussing the next steps. We needed a lawyer, someone who could help me access the inheritance and regain control of my finances. Mary knew a lawyer named Mr. Bennett. He was known for helping people like me, discreetly and efficiently. We decided to contact him. Mary offered to make the call, ensuring everything was done quietly. I was nervous, but her confidence calmed me. I watched as she dialed his number. Her voice was steady as she explained my situation. I could hear the reassurance in her tone, and it gave me hope. After the call, Mary told me Mr. Bennett would visit soon to discuss my options. I felt a mix of emotions. I was excited but also scared. This was a big step, and there was so much at stake. But I knew it was necessary. I had to take this chance to regain my freedom. I had to trust that things would work out. As I waited for Mr. Bennett's visit, I spent more time with Agnes. Our friendship grew stronger each day. She was a source of comfort and support. We talked about our dreams, our hopes for the future. Agnes wanted to see her grandchildren again, to be part of their lives. I wanted to live on my own terms, to make my own choices. We encouraged each other, knowing we were not alone in our struggles. One afternoon, Agnes shared more of her story. Her children, like mine, had their own problems. They believed leaving her at the facility was the best option. Agnes spoke with sadness, but also understanding. She didn't hold a grudge. Her resilience inspired me. I admired her strength and grace in the face of adversity. As the days passed, I learned more about Lily and David's struggles. They had financial problems, and it seemed they hoped my assets would help stabilize their lives. I felt conflicted. I loved my children, but their actions hurt me deeply. I couldn't let their needs overshadow my own. I had to focus on my future. Finally, the day came when Mr. Bennett arrived. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a reassuring presence. We met in a small, private room. Mary joined us, offering her support. I felt grateful for her presence. She had become a true friend, someone I could rely on. Mr. Bennet listened to my story. He nodded, taking notes and asking questions. I felt a sense of relief, knowing I was in capable hands. He explained the process of accessing the inheritance. It was complicated, but not impossible. We would need to gather documents and prove my competency. I felt a surge of determination. I was ready to do whatever it took to regain control. Mr. Bennet promised to help every step of the way. His confidence gave me hope. I believed that with his assistance, I could achieve my goal. After the meeting, Mary and I discussed the next steps. We needed to be careful, ensuring no one interfered with our plans. I felt a sense of urgency, knowing time was of the essence. But I also felt hopeful. I could see a path forward, a way to regain my independence. In the following days, I worked closely with Mr. Bennet. We gathered documents, proving my identity and my right to the inheritance. It was a slow process, but we made progress. Each step brought me closer to my goal. I felt a sense of purpose, knowing I was taking control of my life. Agnes was a constant source of support. She cheered me on, sharing in my victories. Her friendship was a blessing, reminding me I was not alone. We talked about the future, imagining the possibilities. I promised to stay in touch with her, no matter where life took me. As the pieces fell into place, I reflected on my journey. I thought about my children, my past, and my future. I felt a mix of emotions, sadness, anger, but also hope. I knew this was a turning point, a chance to reclaim my life. I decided that once my situation was settled, would use a portion of the inheritance to improve conditions at Whispering Pines. I wanted to ensure that residents like Agnes had a better quality of life. It felt important to give back, to help others who were in similar situations. Finally, everything was ready. Mr. Bennet had arranged for the necessary legalities to be completed. I felt a sense of relief and anticipation. I was on the brink of a new beginning, ready to step into a future where I was in control. I couldn't wait to leave the facility, to start anew. I felt a mix of emotions, excitement, fear, and hope. But above all, I felt ready. I was ready to reclaim my life, to live freely and fully. With the support of my new friends, I knew I could face whatever came next. The day finally came when I was ready to leave Whispering Pines. I felt nervous but excited. Everything was in place. Mr. Bennet had worked hard to access my inheritance and secure my financial independence. I was grateful to him and to Mary for their unwavering support. Their help had made this new beginning possible. Mary and I shared a quiet moment before I left. We stood in the small garden, the snow gently falling around us. She smiled and wished me well. Her kindness had been a beacon of hope during a difficult time. I promised to stay in touch, to let her know how I was doing. We hugged, and I felt a wave of gratitude for her friendship. Agnes was there too, sitting quietly beside us. She looked at me with a mix of happiness and sadness. We had become close, sharing our dreams and supporting each other. I promised her that I would use some of the inheritance to improve life at the facility. I wanted to help make Whispering Pines a better place for residents like her. It was important to me to give back, to help those who had become my friends. With everything ready, I left Whispering Pines. My heart was full of mixed emotions. I felt relief at leaving, but also a twinge of sadness. This place had been my home, however unwillingly, and I had made meaningful connections here. But I knew it was time to move on, to start a new chapter in my life. I moved into a cozy cottage nearby. It was small but perfect for me. The first evening there, I sat by the fireplace, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. The quiet was comforting, a welcome change from the constant noise of the facility. I felt free, able to make my own choices and decisions once again. As I settled in, I took time to reflect on my journey. I thought about my children, Lily and David. I loved them deeply, but their actions had hurt me. I understood their struggles, but it didn't change the pain of their betrayal. I decided to write them a letter, expressing my feelings. In the letter, I told them how much I loved them. I shared my disappointment and hurt, but also my hope for the future. I wanted them to know that I forgave them, but I needed to live my life on my own terms. I hoped they would understand and respect my decision. Writing the letter was cathartic, a way to release the emotions I had been holding inside. With my newfound freedom, I began to plan for the future. I wanted to use the inheritance wisely, to make a positive impact on others. Improving Whispering Pines was my first goal, but I also wanted to support causes I cared about. I had the chance to make a difference, and I was determined to do so. I spent time enjoying my new home, savoring the simple pleasures of daily life. I cooked meals in my own kitchen, tended to the small garden, and took long walks in the surrounding countryside. Each day felt precious, a gift to be cherished. I felt grateful for this second chance, for the opportunity to rebuild my life. I kept in touch with Mary and Agnes, updating them on my progress. Their friendship continued to be a source of strength and joy. We shared stories and laughter, staying connected despite the distance. I felt lucky to have them in my life, to have found true friends during a challenging time. As the days turned into weeks, I felt more settled and content. My life was my own again, and I relished the freedom that brought. I continued to reflect on my journey, realizing how much I had grown and changed. The experience had taught me resilience and strength, lessons I would carry with me always. On New Year's Eve, I sat by the fireplace once more. The night was quiet, with only the sound of the crackling fire to keep me company. I thought about the past year, the challenges and triumphs. It had been a journey of discovery, of finding my voice and reclaiming my life. I felt hopeful about the future, ready to embrace whatever came next. I knew there would be challenges, but I felt equipped to handle them. I had learned to trust myself, to rely on my inner strength. I was ready to live fully and freely, with the support of my new friends and the lessons of the past guiding me. As the clock struck midnight, I raised a glass in a silent toast. To new beginnings and endless possibilities. To freedom and independence. To love and forgiveness. I felt a sense of peace, knowing that I was exactly where I needed to be. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms.